Hey everybody, it's Cheru here, and today we're going to be playing some WWE 2K19 as I tell you the story of the time I became a professional wrestler, won every single belt in existence, became a billionaire, went on a really crazy DMT trip multiple times, turned into a bear, and then finally died in a horrific wrestling accident. Let's get to it. I'd actually managed to schedule my very first wrestling match in the amateur circuit at a crappy old backyard promotion called BCW. Literally nobody had ever heard of it, and we had no marketing budget, so I had to go around the country sticking these flyers anywhere I could in the hopes that someone would attend. Everywhere I went, people would either tell me I look like a nightmare version of Joe Rogan that you saw when you took a little bit too much DMT, or they'd bully me and tell me I look like a ginormous oily ding-dong. Even this lovely interracial couple told me that they hoped I'd break my neck in the ring and to get the stupid look off my face. Sadly, I couldn't. Because this is my this is my face. The very next morning, after a great sleep in my van, I put on about 50 liters of body oil and got ready to go and make a name for myself and $1 billion along the way. My first business meeting was obviously in a soup kitchen, and for some reason I couldn't help but feel like I was either really small for a 320-pound adult male, or these guys were just really big. I also couldn't figure out why nobody else was covered in body oil. This idiot, who you'll see multiple times throughout this video, was my first opponent and my best friend. His name is Cole, and he is a piece of garbage. My favorite move is grabbing his ears and watching him flail around helplessly on the floor like the piece of trash he is. The audience loves it. Anyway, that night, scouts from the WWE were actually in the audience, so I had to put on a bit of a show, and stepped on Cole's face repeatedly, then boofed him in the head till he passed out. The giant men who forgot to put on their body oil congratulated me on my dominant victory and invited me to Hooters for dinner to celebrate. Then, approximately 1 week later, the WWE was so impressed that they called me up and invited me in for an exhibition match with a delightful cross-eyed fellow called Bone a Strongman or something. He was a man of few words and many steroids.
I'm actually your opponent tonight.
You mean victim? So how do you want to die tonight? We're gonna do what I want to do.
Great idea.
And before I knew it, it was time. Time for my first match on the big stage. WWE Raw, baby.
Making his way to the ring, from Chad, weighing in at 320 pounds, the assassin, beautiful Alpha Bacon.
The bell rang, the fight started, and I honestly couldn't tell you what happened after that. All I remember is lying on my back with my legs behind my head and a ginormous cross-eyed bikey laying on top of me whispering, "Take it like a man." Take it like a man. Whatever did happen in those very brief 10 seconds, though, left Mr. Boner Strongman clearly exhausted. Backstage, my agent scanned my barcode repeatedly and told me that I was an absolutely worthless piece of shit. And then, like something out of a dream, it happened.
Hey, I saw a lot of positive things from you tonight. So with that being said, we'd like to offer you an NXT contract.
Which was totally hilarious, but anyway, I was now a primetime big deal WWE superstar in the making. So I did what any other WWE superstar in the making would do and went to hang around in a dark alleyway at night so I could post an Instagram story.
Well, the audience is saying that I'm good enough to go straight to the main roster, which actually, I think I proved it tonight by going toe-to-toe with Braun Strowman.
And then got sucker punched in the back of the head by a goldfish in a leather jacket. The video went viral and everyone at the WWE was extremely disappointed with me for being such a beta.
Look, the fan attacked me first. I was just defending myself.
I'm not gonna lie, at that moment I felt so small. I'm not sure if it's because I'm an absolute failure or because I actually am small and I was surrounded by 3 men that completely dwarf me in size 3 times over. But they all gave me that "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed" look, then tore up my contract and kicked me in the nads repeatedly. The next day, my agent told me that he was never going to give me up, never going to let me down, never going to run around or desert me, and to get my ass out of my van and return to the amateur circuit to beat up my idiot friend Cole for the 47th time. Cole, however, was no longer the same man whose ass I beat a few days prior. Now he had a magic black mask, which when he put on mid-fight, instantly channeled the power of 500 Gimps, throwing me through the windshield of my own van and humiliating me in front of all the other homeless people watching the fight. Beat up, humiliated, and disillusioned, the only thing that made sense at this point was to go to Mexico. As soon as I arrived, I got into a fight with an eggplant man who I bashed up real good and then scheduled an appointment to arrange a 500 kilogram shipment of crack cocainist to be delivered to my van every single day until it finally killed me. And I tell you, it must have been some good stuff, because the next thing I remember, I was in Japan beating up my buddy Cole again, but this time inside of a steel cage. And then the next thing I remember after that, we were both at NXT tag teaming some dude in front of thousands of people. Like I said, lots of crack cocainists and all that, but I think he might have only had one leg. The following week, Cole, my agent, and myself all got together in the car park to decide what outfits we'd wear to our next NXT invasion. Obviously, we decided on 80s wrestling superstars. Cole looked pretty dope, and I did the best I could digging around inside of one of those Salvation Army clothing bins, rocking up as the Ultimate Warrior and the Macho Man Randy Savage. And then the bouncers rocked up and beat the crap out of the both of us. To add insult to injury, Triple H then brought out the same goldfish man that jumped me in the dark alley on that fateful night, that signaled the termination of my NXT contract the very same day it began. Then, after flipping him into the ring and possibly severing his spinal cord, my worst nightmare became my reality. The goldfish man was my agent and maybe my father. I don't know. I went to smash his face in, but then realized that I didn't have any gloves on and that such actions were highly uncivilized and possibly unhygienic. So I let him live. After that, Triple H met me backstage to tell me that I was a little wussy man and to ask why I was always so oily. And then some big hairy Indian bloke randomly appeared out of nowhere and started beating the flippin' crap out of me. So I smashed a giant trash can over his head a couple of times and then powerbombed him through a table. He's dead now. And then with that business taken care of, I casually strolled down into the arena to join the other half-naked men in the ring. Oh, okay, I guess he's not actually dead. Either way, I dominated the ring in true Alpha Bacon fashion and won the elimination match, bringing me one step closer to winning all of the belts. It was also at this point that I realized I was in the WWE, though I honestly don't remember ever signing a contract, which was kind of weird, but whatever. My performance actually seemed to impress one of the patients from the local brain trauma hospital who came all the way down to show me that he'd finally learned how to clap. Then, as he got closer, I soon realized that he wasn't actually a brain-dead victim of a parachute accident, but the USA champion of USA or something. Then he got all up in my face, and despite my best attempts to warn him that if he didn't back off, he'd find himself naked on his back with me on top smashing him repeatedly, he didn't listen. He just didn't. I was now officially the United States champion of USA and probably the American of the Year or something. As soon as I got backstage, some ginormous woman invited me to meet her for drinks, which was equal parts exciting and terrifying, given the sheer magnitude of her head. And now that I was finally a big deal and filthy rich, I decided to treat myself to the revolting full-body roid abuser vascularity package that I had my heart set on since I first put my underpants on top of my suit and stepped into the ring. It was gross. And then went out to speak to my fans in a suit that was almost identical to the one I was wearing underneath, but not quite, which was just what Triple H was looking for, to come out and to tell me that if I was genuinely dumb enough to wear a suit on top of another suit, I could at least wear one that matched, like the one he was wearing. He then told me that he was my mother and that he hated me and that I was an accident. Nevertheless, I am a professional, and as such, I still went to work moments later after finding out that Triple H had been my mother all along. I then bashed everyone satisfactorily and defended my belt like an absolute champ, because I was an absolute champ. When I got backstage, some weird hairy guy offered me a briefcase full of money for my belt, but I told him that unless that case was full of crack cocainists, I wasn't interested. Then I headed back to the ring for the 7th time that day to defend my belt against these two idiots. And I mean, things were going pretty well until some sneaky bugger that wasn't even part of the match slipped into the ring while the referee was preoccupied, broke my neck, and lost me the match and my belt. Now, this really has nothing to do with anything, but watching this guy with absolutely no background music is so trippy that I thought you guys should experience it just as I did. Anyway, later that night while I was smashing some dude in the ring, an even bigger dude suddenly appeared out of nowhere with a microphone in his hand. Honestly, I couldn't even see him until he was right in front of me.
I'm here because I've heard all the buzz. You see, I've been around for a while. So I'm out here tonight because I want to know, do you measure up, Buzz?
The next belt on my radar was the white one that was held by some douchebag. I thought that if I rolled up on the mid-speech gangster style, I'd be able to bash him and take the belt for myself. Unfortunately, I seem to have ever so slightly miscalculated my abilities and ended up getting bashed instead. I then woke up backstage, confused with some smelly man's crotch on my face. It was at that very moment that I was approached by another man who, just like me, looked like a ginormous ding-dong in a suit and was offered the opportunity to create my own belt and title. I employed the services of world-class designers like Versace and Mike Tyson, and this is what we came up with. The Big PP of the World belt for the title of
The Extreme Hardcore Non-Stop Rated R Deep South Action Championship.
We both handed our belts to the referee to hold as he looked like a relatively trustworthy fellow, and then I beat the living poopy McPoop nuggets out of the dumbass that I was in the cage with. It was really great and I loved every minute of it. The referee then unlocked the cage and I very casually climbed out while my opponent just stared at me, clearly struggling to decide whether he wanted to walk to the left or to the right or to just bleed to death from the ginormous head wound he was dealing with. Then just like that, I was now the champion of even more stuff. Matter of fact, I think at this point there was only one belt left for me to lay claim to. The red one. I was such a big deal now that everywhere I went, people were stopping me to ask for selfies of me and my really cool belt that I made. Everyone really seemed to love it. Now, what happened next was pretty weird. Some strange, grotty-looking dude with dreadlocks, terrible tattoos, and a stupid octopus singlet appeared on the screen and started saying a bunch of crap, then used the projector to put a bunch of maggots on the ring floor under my feet. I knew that if I ever wanted to beat that weirdo, I need to go and speak to the other weirdo backstage, because he was magic or something.
Are you woken? If one is not woken, then there is no hope in combating a force such as the monster you speak of. And even I, who is supremely woken, have lost many battles to him in the Great War.
I still, to this very day, have absolutely no idea what the heck he was talking about. But next minute, I found myself in some kind of nightmare with a sledgehammer-wielding undead Triple H wearing a crown trying to kill me. It was all good though, I was totally smashing his ass, but then suddenly Goldfish Man appeared behind me with a baseball bat and hit me in the Abdullah Bob Longata. Unconscious on the floor, but with my eyes wide open, I was dragged into the darkness. It didn't take long before I was awakened by the same grubby freak that projected maggots all over the floor in the ring, who then proceeded to try and force me to hook up with his mum. Feeling completely disrespected by being brought here outside of business hours, I gave him a Walmart Shoryuken and then covered his mum's house in gasoline and set the whole thing on fire, with absolutely no regard whatsoever for whether or not he burnt along with it. When I got back, I was told that I did a great service to the local community as the house was apparently chock-block full of asbestos, and the weird mage guy told me to eat some sus mushroom that would apparently unlock my final form. So I did, and before I knew it, I was in the multiverse. In order to unlock my hidden inner potential, I had to choose which of these 4 creatures was going to be my spirit animal. Was it a polar bear, a shark, a snake, or a used tampon? I knew immediately, without hesitation, that the polar bear was my spirit animal. And so I returned to Earth from my DMT trip dressed in a dead bear's head with a bunch of sheepskin on my bollocks, ready to crush creepy maggot guy in real life. Honestly, I don't know how or why my buddy Cole was suddenly in the ring with us, but hey, there he was. Then to celebrate our victory, we did this thing which I still don't understand, but am made to feel extremely uncomfortable by. Ugh. Then suddenly out of nowhere, the DMT seemed to kick in again, and for a split second, I could swear to you that I was in the ring trying to pull Bret Hart's ears off his head. Then when I finally returned to planet Earth, I headed back to the ring for a 6-man elimination match with everyone that I hated. Now, to be entirely honest, it didn't start off the best, but once my mojo kicked in, I was unstoppable. I was freaking fools left, right, and center. Boom, 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 bang, 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 bang. All day long. And just like that, the red belt too was now mine. Triple H didn't look that happy though. Matter of fact, he was apparently so unhappy that he brought 2 goons to the ring with him, and before I knew it, they'd both hopped in, and while I did my best to fend them off, I got my neck broken again by the same dude that already broke it a few days earlier.
Spinal.
And because I was so mad, I actually went backstage to bash the security guards to let off a little bit of steam. And that's when I found Triple H laying on the floor in his underpants, licking the ground while he tweaked like a madman. So I slapped him. But then the Roid Bros showed up again, and the 3 of them bashed me for the second time and threw me into the limousine. Then Triple H, clearly an expert in insurance fraud, went and jammed a brick on the gas pedal and caused the limo with me inside to crash right into the WWE tour bus, and ironically, directly into my own face. Unsettled by this turn of events, I went to the audience to tell them that Triple H had been trying to kill me, and that if anything were to happen, they were to contact the FBI immediately and ask to speak to Chief Inspector Ali G, who would most certainly discover the events that led to my demise. Then, like magic, my clothes instantly disappeared off my body in the crowd, and the 2 strange dudes in the ring with me went wild as they all cheered and applauded my beautiful, oily, half-naked body. But it seemed that I was just too trusting, and before I knew it, I was getting kicked in the bollocks and got my neck broken for the 3rd time.
Spinal.
You see, the hairy chest guy traded his case full of money for the chance to challenge me for all of my titles. And because I was dead, I wasn't able to defend my belts as well as I usually would have if I was alive. So I lost them all. Thanks for watching this stupid video. Goodbye. So my journey began the same way that all great journeys do, with me selecting the all-new WWE career mode. Now it was time to begin my journey to the top, which unironically started with an induction held by the legendary Shawn Michaels himself, and 3 unknown losers that I like to call Tweedledum, Tweedledummer, and Tweedle So Dumb I'm Dead. I figured that the best way to make an impact would be to call out Shawn Michaels in the middle of the induction, then beat his ass in front of everyone, forever solidifying my legacy as the man with the most steroids in his bloodstream in human history. So I kicked the man when he was down, then I picked him back up and kicked him in the armpit repeatedly and finished it off with an elbow to the head. After retiring Shawn Michaels permanently, old Road Dogg sent me on a mission to further prove my abilities inside the wrestling ring. This one's a bit weird though, I'm not gonna lie, because it had me going back in time to fight Hulk Hogan in the 80s. In my imagination. But whatever. After a couple of snappy punchy punchies and a clothesline, I attempted a Super Saiyan level 3 teabag from the top rope, which I missed. So I flipped him on his head and broke every bone in his body, kicked him in the back, did a little bit of ninja schnitzel, gave him the good old-fashioned fist-rama in every hole, and ended him with the 1, 2, 3, you're out of here, matey, Potato. Anyway, because this game's career mode is super lazily made, there's basically no cutscenes, so yeah, we're just thrown right into another fight, this time against The Rock, aka I think I might be lactating. Obviously, The Rock couldn't smell what I was cooking, but it was a And then for dessert, I popped a squat in his chest and boofed him in the face repeatedly until he swallowed all of his teeth. Then I chucked him into the rope thingies and beat his chest repeatedly to indicate that I was the king of the jungle. It's also at that moment that I realized I was beating up Steve Austin instead of The Rock. How the heck did that happen? Anyway, after finishing up a Raw, I headed over to NXT to fight against this grotty fellow for the belt. Long story short, I bashed him in the testes repeatedly until he sounded like Tattoo from Fantasy Island, but much to my surprise, and in true WWE fashion, I got ambushed by a bunch of bald zombies in leotards, who then proceeded to kick the crap out of me. It seemed, however, that they were just buying time for the same idiot that I just beat up to come back to the ring again, only this time he was covered in streamers and had a big tongue painted on his chest. Needless to say, he's dead now. Anyway, with that out of the way, I found myself in some wacky sausage fest where we all battled it out to set up a ladder in the middle of the ring where we had to climb to the top and steal a briefcase dangling from the ceiling. Now, I wasn't going to go down without a fight, though, even if that meant hanging from the ceiling until everyone else went home for the day, which is exactly what I did. This briefcase, however, allowed me to pick a fight with anyone of my choosing, which was obviously for the Universal Belt against that Roman guy. And as you can see by looking down at our health meters, I was absolutely destroying him, and I did get him down for a 3 count, but much to my surprise, some rolled in with another briefcase, whacked me in the face with it, and then pinned me, and took the belt 5 seconds after I won it. Unfortunately for him, though, I got back up, beat him up, and then took the belt back 5 seconds after he won it. Hooray! I'm the Universal Champion, baby. Unfortunately for me, though, as soon as I got into the back lot, Seth Rollins rocked up and elbowed me right in the barcode. I couldn't believe it. Then he and his bros literally tried to murder me by throwing me off a 2-story piece of scaffolding. But then this happened.
お前はもう死んでいる。NANI?
Oopsie doopsie. I guess I'll be seeing you in the ring, Seth Rollins, for the WWE Championship belt. Sign the contract right now, you little... So I gave him the old 1-2-3 clothesline combo, kneed him in the balls from the top rope, gave him the old 1-2 leg over the head missionary backflip, stole the baseball bat that he brought into the ring and broke his knee with it, and just like that, 1, 2, 3... There's a new WWE champion in the house, baby. It's Agent 47. But then, the greatest surprise in WWE history, mostly because everybody could hear the footsteps, but nobody could see where they were coming from. John Cena rocked up and said that he wanted my belt. I'm sorry, John Cena, but you can't have it. You can have this instead, though. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot, at some point in this video, I actually ended up fighting this guy as well. Everyone says he's really scary. But as you'll see right here, Agent 47 is scared of nothing. Matter of fact, he redefined scary. And it's been redefined as a tiny little bald man beating the crap out of a gargantuan giant inside of a wrestling ring. And slapping him in the face repeatedly. Look at that, it's glorious, isn't it? I'm just trying to make this video 8 minutes. Thanks for watching. Bye. Welcome to WWE 2K23's all-new campaign mode that tells the tale of a Gimp that lives inside of a ginormous safe and who would come crashing onto the WWE scene like Miley Cyrus on a wrecking ball, only better looking. Anyway, my debut would take place one fateful night at WWE Raw. See, that's me inside of my Gimp safe, and this is me getting out of my Gimp safe like the absolute freak show I am. Hi, everybody. For me, Mike Tyson. Yep, this is me. I'm simultaneously awesome and the worst person alive. Everyone hates me, and I look like every bully or drug fiend that ever existed. And I was coming straight for the WWE belt, whatever it's called, because I sure as hell don't know. Immediately, however, Sammy tripped over my massive ball, so I picked him up and kicked him in the face a couple of times, and then cleaned my booters on his hooters, rearranging his face in the process. I scored a couple of cheeky goals with his backside. Hold on, wait, what? After that, I finished him with the good old reach around hand between the legs from behind special move that everyone was waiting for. And 1, 2, 3. The strap was mine, baby. 5 minutes out the Gimp cage and already a world champion. Yeah, brah. Destiny, brah. But while I was just trying to keep to myself and quietly enjoy my victory, old mate came up behind me and violated me over the head. That would obviously never fly though, so I reversed him like the mad lad Giga Chan I am, smashed his face into the side of the safe and locked him inside, where just between you and me, it smelled like 40-year-old gym ass. That is to say, a piece of clothing, most probably a jock strap, that had been heavily soiled and left in a dirty gym bag or something for 40 years, and not a 40-year-old dude's sweaty ass after the gym. Not long after the fight, however, Shawn Michaels approached me backstage and told me that he had something to tell me. He said that he was actually my father, I was a mistake, and that he hated me. He then ripped out a padlock, stared me in the eyes, and said, "Who let your mom out? Who?" I didn't have an answer for him, but it was a very good question. One thing I was sure about, however, was that this guy was a and I hated him, and that his breasts were big enough to feed the entire third world. As soon as I got into the change rooms, I saw my next court case standing directly in front of me, but he told me that if I gave him a chance to get his belt back, he'd only sue me for half of what I was worth instead of all I'm worth. Joke was on him though, because I'm worth absolutely nothing. Prepped and ready, I headed out to show the crowd the new entrance routine I'd been working on. I like to call it, I had way too much crack cocainus and I'm tweaking off my head. Somebody please help me, my body is out of control. Suddenly, Conor McGregor at home came out with his bumhole cleaner. But I made a promise long ago to keep me exit hole and never make it an entry hole. I was, however, totally alright with taking a steaming hot poo-poo on his chest. It wouldn't come out though, so I kneed him in the throat instead. I then rubbed my dirty boot all over his face and kicked him right in the penis. But then in typical WWE fashion, while I was getting my freak on, somebody suddenly rode up on me and bamboozled me with my own chain and padlock. Then the two of them literally lay me down beside my 5,000 pound safe and tried to murder me in front of a live crowd and on live television. Bad ass. Fortunately, unfortunately, this loser came out and saved me from my ultimate demise. An eternal rivalry was then forged. I would never forgive him. 1 hour later, I was fine though, because the WWE has good drugs. They also made me angry, which was good because I was about to kick this idiot's ass again. I really loved how the entire first 3 hours or so of the campaign was bashing the same dude over and over and over again. I then climbed the ladder and got ready to pinch back my belt thingy once and for all. Later that day in the change rooms, Shawn Michaels told me that I was conceived in a test tube that he in 30 years ago, and then was approached by this man in a suit and this guy in his underpants who both tried to recruit me to their respective factions. Apparently, I needed to be in a gang to win all the belts or something. I finally settled on this middle-aged dad though, because he looked like he knew how to get all the letters. Shawn Michaels popped up again and told me that he was sending me to California to headline the next pay-per-view there. He also said that now that nobody lived in California anymore, the chances of having anyone attend was next to zero, but that if I could pull off a full arena— hold on, wait, what? He would tell me who my mother was. Unfortunately, however, they had me up against this bozo for the 30th time since the start of the campaign, who I completely and entirely blame for the poor attendance at the event that night. Anyway, now that I was in a gang and that we all had matching suits, we showed up in limos and did copious amounts of crack cocainus in the back of the limo on our way to work every day. Life was good / tremendously expensive. It was also at that moment that I realized the MVP entrance that I chose during character creation, that I thought was just a generic entrance for, you know, the MVP, was actually the entrance for a guy called MVP. The very same guy in my gang. Awkward! But even more awkward was the fact that we were, much to my surprise, involved in a threesome match with these two dudes, and also these two dudes. And admittedly, it was going pretty well for me. Not so much for this dude, who was now a paraplegic after getting his spinal cord severed by my knee. But then, just as I was going for the cheeky side mount leg in the air scissor missionary position, I got picked up and tossed onto my back, which did way more damage than it should have, considering I literally hadn't been hit at all during the entire fight. But hey, WWE! And then seemingly out of nowhere, Tupac with hair came flying off the top rope, taking both me out and Mr. Leatherpants in one fell swoop. He then hopped right on top of me, which honestly hurt my feelings and made me feel like the town bike, because just about everyone had had a ride. Unfortunately, that meant that we weren't able to take the WWE tag team belts home that night. We were salty, sure, but we'd get our revenge in the next threesome. In the backlot, I made sure to blame everyone else but myself for the steaming pile of ass that was our last fight, and said that I was going to go out for an immediate rematch then and there, where I would do battle once more with Tupac with hair and short LeBron James to claim the tag team belts for myself. I picked up old mate and gave him the big juicy booty to the face. He punched his mate in the mouth so he wouldn't be able to interfere with the 3 count. Did this thingamajig. And then 1, 2, 3 counts, you're out of here, short LeBron. I was absolutely ecstatic and celebrated in the only way that I knew how, like a princess. As I razzled and dazzled my way across the ring, I thought to myself, I wonder if this tattoo ink is toxic. It sure looks toxic. Now, this bloke was the current holder at the time of the 24/7 championship belt, which basically meant that roided up half-naked men would jump you round the clock anywhere of their choosing. I could understand why any normal man would not want such a responsibility, fatality, but not me. I had brain damage. As he passed the belt to the ref, I could tell just by the look in his eyes that he knew he was about to die. Then, after picking him up off the ground by his long, filthy hair, I hit him with a Hadouken so powerful that he shit himself and died instantly. Just another belt to add to my collection, baby. Later that evening, however, a huge dude in a schoolboy uniform came and punched me in the back of the head. So I made him chase me up a ladder to the second floor, just so I could toss him all the way back down again directly onto his back on the hard concrete floor. With him now dead, I had successfully defended my new 24/7 championship belt for the first time, though he did move around an awful lot for a dead guy. Now, I don't know why, but this entire garbage campaign story had me fighting the same pool of like 8 dudes over and over and over and over again until it finally thankfully ended, but here I was again fighting the same idiot I'd already beaten 3 times prior with my belt once more on the line. And it was going real well, I tell ya. I had him stunned. I was climbing the top rope to fly off and hopefully snap his neck in the process, but then he went full Undertaker on me, bashed the ref, and then Randy Norton antivirus made me smash my testicles on the turnbuckle. Very uncool. This then set me up for another chokeslam that sadly resulted in me losing my Intercontinental Championship belt, and 3 grown-ass men in ridiculous costumes pretending to kick me repeatedly on the floor for a good 30 seconds. My career had reached an all-time low. Backstage, my gang members told me that they decided to kick me out because I was way too attractive to be a part of their gang, but it was fine. They weren't my real dads anyway. Later that day, however, because yes, this entire story takes place inside of just one really long day, I was telling the WWE Universe about this one simple trick that was making WWE superstars everywhere hate me, when Shawn Michaels popped up again to tell me I had a brother and that he was better than me in everything. He also told me that even though he was my father, my brother was also him. I couldn't believe it. And naturally so bamboozled by it all, I decided that the only gentlemanly thing to do in such a situation was to king hit him in the back of the head as he was trying to walk away. I had a feeling that I may have gone just a little bit too far. Next time, I would need to go further. Oh yes, I was also fired from the WWE. Anyway, now that I was broke and a joke, I was forced into doing motion cap for all the future crappy WWE 2K games that were coming out in order to pay for my hefty crack cocainous habit. But lo and behold, look who decided to suddenly rock up again with his stupid briefcase. Hole McGee. And yes, I have anger management issues, so it shouldn't have come as a surprise to anybody that this is what happened while he was prancing around the ring like an absolute tosspot. After losing my motion cap gig though, I was now officially homeless, jobless, and crackless. Old people kept coming up to me and trying to resuscitate me, thinking I was dead, or offering me butterscotch toffees and asking me if I needed a metal spoon and a syringe. I took this old bloke up on one of his offers and headed to the local pub with him. As it turned out, he was my mother. Completely hammered after my bender with mum, I entered myself into the local UK wrestling tournament. The drugs in England hit different, and so did I. Now, rumor had it that NXT UK was holding a double championship match open to anyone, which technically meant that I could rock up unannounced and challenge the champ for his belt and trophy. I knew that with me mum in me corner shouting at me, reminding me not to be a little I could do anything. And so I'd kneed this guy repeatedly in the testicles until they turned to paste. I then grabbed the microphone off the ref and farted into it. I took my new belt on a trip around the world, visiting various promotions and making WWE filthy jealous in the process. Finally, they had no choice but to invite me back. Shawn Michaels, however, had other ideas. He said that the only reason they brought me back was to get back their belt and trophy, and that he would do absolutely everything to make my life miserable. Little did he know that misery was my forte, and I loved to cry. He then told me that I had up until SummerSlam, which was only a couple of days thereabouts away, to become WWE champion, or I was gone from the universe forever. Just then, the new WWE champion, Shrek, walked out. I could tell immediately by his stubble and black underpants that he was a baddie now. He got into the ring and told me that he was my mother's brother's friend and that we were related by blood. What the hell is going on? I thought to myself. Why is everyone in the WWE an immediate family member And why isn't the WWE called the WEE when that is clearly a much better name? He tried to smash me, but I reversed him. And then just as I was pinning him, Shawn Michaels did the dirty on me. I couldn't believe it. Shawn, you dirty, dirty man. Then before I knew it, my mum and I were getting the crap kicked out of us in the middle of the ring. As a result of the traumatic brain injury I incurred during that fight, I rocked up to my next couple of fights thinking I was some kid on a scooter, and then hit up The Rock to ask for a little bit of help dismantling the tyrannical WWE patriarchy. He said sure, but first I had to kill a clown. So I did. But with only 2 days left to win the WWE Championship, time for me was running out. What wasn't running out though was my willingness to steep to all new lows time and time again. So, I caught up with my mother's brother's friend, who I was related to by blood, in the car park, and bashed the crap out of him and his mates. Then me and the boys flipped their limo over onto its side because toxic masculinity. Having already warmed up in the back lot by deadlifting their limo, we were now ready to face off against them once again, but this time inside of the ring. But of course, while I was dominating once more, the stupid 4-story arc kicked in and a bunch of half-naked dudes clad in leather and latex appeared out of nowhere and gangbanged me in the middle of the ring. You see, Randy Norton Antivirus and Shawn Michaels had orchestrated the entire thing. Their master plan. The great reveal. Randall Norton was also my father. I couldn't believe it. How were they all my father? But as I would soon find out, it didn't stop there. As I got manhandled and dropped on my face, I then found out that all of these guys were also my fathers too. For some reason though, The Rock wasn't. Why is life so cruel? But life is cruel to everybody, as my arch nemesis would soon find out when Shawn Michaels entered the ring to tell him that he no longer felt confident in his ability to defend the belt from me. And so, he was asking him to relinquish it to random antivirus. So he lay down on the floor and took it like the little he was. Random Nordic Virus was now the WWE champion. Struggling to hold my ice pack in the back room, Shawn Michaels appeared out of nowhere once more to bamboozle me with some more info nuggets. He told me that all of this was part of an elaborate plan that he had set up to test whether or not I was ready to become the new owner of the chocolate factory. My final test would be that night and would require me to defeat Randick Norton. Then everyone knows that the more tattoos you have, the tougher you are. Sure, he had 2 full sleeves, but me? I was an absolute psycho that tattooed a permanent suit onto his body. Now, the belt was looking mighty juicy in the hands of Red Dick Orton, and I couldn't wait to wrap it around my dick. Horrible, horrible things happened to Randy that night, over and over and over and over and over and over again. It was great. But then he reversed me, broke my spine, and put me on the top rope to try and do some sus stuff with the help of Shawn Michaels. But fortunately, The Rock came along and caved in Shawn's face on the sharp edge of the metal steps. And just when I thought I'd been bamboozled again, Shrek rocked up pretending to gangbang me with Rick Dick, but broke his neck for me instead, allowing me to go for the 1, 2, 3 count pin for the win, baby. And just like that, I was now the WWE World Champion and the new owner and proprietor of Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. My dad immediately rushed into the ring, seemingly to steal my belt away, but much to my surprise, he took it off the ref rather aggressively, I might add, and gave it to me. He told me that he loved me and he was now confident that I could run the chocolate factory myself and that he could now die in peace. Then he went backstage and got run over by a truck. As I continued to celebrate my victory in the ring, completely unaware of what was going on around me, my best mate rocked up again with his stupid briefcase and smashed me over the head with it, clearly trying to steal my belt off me after just having won it. You see, that Money in the Bank case allows him to challenge anyone for their title anywhere, anytime. So I got back to my feet and patiently waited for him to come charging at me in the corner, then moved out of the way just in time, causing him to squash both of his testicles and pinning him for 3. Of course, he tried to take the belt anyway, like the annoying little that he is, but he fell out of the ring in the process, and all my G's came into the ring to celebrate with me. I was now officially the WWE World Champion of the world, and low-key couldn't wait for 2K to re-release the same game again next year, but with a 4 on the end of it instead of a 3. My journey to WWE superstardom began with some light cardio, a salad, and a protein shake. Now I was jacked beyond words and 100% natural. The ladies loved me. I, however, was not happy with my face. It wasn't jacked up enough, and so I fumbled through the templates to find something that hit the spot. Sadly, nothing really did, but eventually I ended up with this, though Slavic Dad would have been a fun choice too. I gave myself 2 ridiculously bright blue eyes that I copped off Wish, and then covered myself in some absolutely revolting vascularity. It was really, really gross. I love it. I then cracked out my trusty old hammer and chisel and got ready to create the most horrific slab of nightmare fuel that this WWE series had ever seen to date. Nevertheless, this was the result. Also, rather than putting a suit on like a normal person, I got a full body suit tattoo that would never wash off. I also asked the tattoo guy to put "Welcome Home Macho Man" with an arrow pointing to my butt, because I discovered a move in this game where you literally rub your butt all over your opponent's face. And then I also chose a red and yellow color scheme that had me looking like bald Ronald McDonald on steroids. I then set all of my names to Hitman and my walkout name to
Awesome Unbreakable T-Rex Willie.
I also set my hometown to Chad because I am a massive Chad, and chose Powerhouse as my fighting style because I actually was one. I mean, look at me. Then, feeling super sassy and ready to go, I goed. The game then got underway and I was immediately greeted by the bump on my screen, which made me think for some reason that I was pregnant. As it turned out, however, the bump was the name of a TV show about the strange lump I had growing out of my left butt cheek. It seemed that SummerSlam was right around the corner where 8 oily, angry-looking dudes would be slamming each other for the belt. There was also a wild card, and that wild card was possibly me. Meanwhile, however, in an empty WWE arena somewhere in the world, I had broken in through the window and was having the time of my life pretending to be a pro wrestler. That was, of course, until some British fellow came in and asked me who my daddy was and what he did. I said I didn't know, because I was actually created in a test tube full of industrial strength bleach and the bodily fluids of 500 great warriors. He told me that he was in the same boat, but that his number was 501. We immediately bonded over this and became best of friends. Then he told me to get out before he called security. Looking at my social media feed, however, it seemed like the wild card was indeed me, and I was going up against one of the 50 billion Mysterios that have been in the WWE since its inception. But as I made my way out to the ring, I wasn't sure which ring I was actually meant to be heading towards, as my unique eye positioning situation had me seeing about 47 of everything.
Weighing in at 600 pounds, Awesome Unbreakable T-Rex Willie.
And as for my opponent, well, I'm pretty sure he was actually a character out of GTA 5. The fight got underway with a flying knee to old mate's face. Then I continued to lay into him with whatever these things are called over and over and over again. Ruthless savagery. It was wonderful. Then finally, before ending his career, I gave him the old face meat boot treatment, then pinned him for the 3 count, which was actually a 5 count because the dumb refs in these games stare at you for 2 seconds before even starting the count. Also, I think he might have been dead. Welcome home, Macho Man. To celebrate my victory, Cody Rhodes offered me an assortment of cookies, cake, and Slim Jims. And then I headed out to the ring for my second fight that night, as Owen Wilson was saying hurtful things about me and I needed to defend myself with violence.
Somebody touch my spaghetti!
But then he reversed my Irish whip and broke my neck on his shoulder. Clearly proud of himself for doing me dirty, he paraded around my unconscious body, making fun of my wonky eyes and the fact that I looked like a living condiment dispenser. But being the tactical testicle that I am, I roly-polied him into the spitball Imanari macho roll. And then we furiously did whatever this was, which resulted in me winning in front of the WWE Universe. Angry about losing, he kicked me in the testicles, then broke my neck again, and proceeded to have a mental breakdown in the ring. I was perfectly fine though, not a single scratch on me. Backstage, The Miz and my test tube brother were having an argument over who had the bigger wiener, but it was clear that the real winner of that competition was definitely not me. I had no time for this petty argument though. I had to go out and fight Cody Rhodes for the Universal Championship, but old mate brought fireworks and a pretty sick jacket, and I immediately started to down myself. After all, this was the Universal Belt of the Galaxy and I couldn't afford to fail. So I charged him with a gonad punch and kicked him in the spine, then crushed his other gonad with my knee and got him into the leg spread position where I stomped on his ball bag. Still not satisfied, however, I tossed him into the corner, then proceeded to headbutt him in the sack over and over and over again. But then as I got ready to finish him, he reversed me into the ref, knocking him out cold. That was good for me though, because he snapped my neck and pinned me, but nobody could count the fall. Then suddenly out of nowhere, Roman Reigns appeared and spear tackled Cody despite apparently being away on leave in Hollywood filming a movie. He said that he'd switched to a new type of hair oil and wanted to show off its shininess to the WWE universe. Apparently he was a big fan of mine though, and so he put my limp unconscious arm over Cody's limp unconscious body just in time for the ref to wake up and make the 3 count in my favor. Then just like that, I was the new WWE Intergalactic Champion of the Moon. And Cody was thrilled. Truth be told though, it didn't feel right getting the belt this way, and so I met with him out back to discuss a potential rematch. I knew however that if I was going to beat him a second time, I definitely needed a new walkout. And so in our next match, I came out like an absolute psycho, with my belt wrapped around my face and some dude's head. The head was actually very pleasant, and he said his name was Joe. So I very gently put Joe on the side of the ring because I am a gentleman, and then took my belt off my face because I couldn't see where I was going. The joke was on me though, because I still couldn't see where I was going. That belt was mine, however, and I was not ready to give it up. Not now, not ever. But just then, as I was really starting to kick it into gear, The Miz came out and told me that I'd been drafted to SmackDown, and that the fight was officially cancelled. I couldn't believe it. Then the ref, probably terrified after my horrific walkout, very hesitantly handed my belt back before sprinting out of the building screaming. I also sprinted out of the building screaming shortly thereafter, as I was now a SmackDown employee and I was running late for work. Then I headed out to the arena to beat Owen Wilson's ass for the second time. Alas, just as I was really starting to lay it on thick like crunchy peanut butter on toast, The Miz came out of the back and did a little song and dance to try and distract me. Owen Wilson then tried to poo on me, but I reversed him and then pooed on him instead. I then spit poison in his eyes and kicked him right in the face, before finally 1, 2, and 3 bye-bye. Then for good measure, I walked outside the ring to where The Miz was setting up a cheeky table for Owen Wilson and slammed him straight through the middle of it. Then made sure to tell The Miz who was the real boss and to eat my shorts before storming out of the arena, clearly not under the influence of crack coqueros. And then I went to discuss the events that had transpired at SmackDown with my test tube brother from Raw. He told me that no matter what happened, always to remember my roots and that I was the ultimate tactical testicle. And so I headed out once more for another weird match where my belt was dangling from the rafters by a rope. I didn't know how it got there or who put it there, but I was very clearly off my head and ready to get it back. So I tossed Owen Wilson out of the ring, I climbed the ladder, and I got it down. Then it hit me. I had no idea where I was or what I was doing there. I also had no idea who made my fashion choices for me. But there I was standing in the ring again, dressed like a moo cow, educating the audience on why drugs are bad and why you should never ever take them. But then suddenly a big ugly guy in a red and black G-string appeared out of nowhere and slapped me in the face, then tried to choke me. So I kicked him right in the penis and then beat the absolute poo-poo out of him with a wooden stick that I took from under the ring. He then grabbed me by the throat and choke-slammed me into the steel steps, breaking my back. Spinal. So I ripped off the stupid outfit I was wearing and tossed him straight into a coffin, where I then proceeded to close the lid on him, trapping him in there for all of eternity, saving my belt in the process and gaining the adoration of all the single ladies in my area. But then Roman Reigns appeared on the TV screen, telling me that he was impressed by my performance, that he was my biggest fan, and that the only reason I had the belt was because he was on holiday and he couldn't wait to come back and kick my ass. I didn't care though, I was too busy for his shenanigans. After all, I was the star of an all-new WWE gaming segment called Down, Up, Down, Up. But mid-broadcast, this guy rocked up and said that we'd ripped the idea off of his show, which was called Up, Up, Down, Down. That's ridiculous, I said. We didn't even use words. Look, we used arrows. This man was clearly crazy. In order to decide who got to keep their show, he challenged me to a game of WWE 2K24, and I had to play as this bozo. But it was okay, because a steel chair to the the head has the same effect on somebody of 60 pounds as it does to somebody of 600. Meanwhile, back in HQ, clearly being written by somebody as goofy as myself, the story had The Miz out of town and R-Truth appointed himself as the GM. As a result, he said that I needed to fight him in the car park as part of my performance review. Yeah, I know, goofy as. So I carried him to the top of this thing and chucked him straight down to the concrete below. But he was still alive, so I launched myself off too. Unfortunately, we both survived, but I did pass the performance review with flying colors. Even more important than my performance review, however, was my wedding. Yes, apparently I was getting married, and neither of us even knew about it. Isn't that exciting? But then these two wedding crashers rocked up and said that their wedding was better than ours. I couldn't believe it. So rude. So we just beat the crap out of each other instead. It was very, very romantic. Meanwhile, at Raw, however, Cody had finally won a belt and was celebrating in the ring when me and the boys confronted him to let him know what he had to look forward to at the War Games event next week. But then his boys showed up too and things got a little bit heated. So me test tube brother stepped in to break everything up and I accidentally punched him right in the mouth. Needless to say, he didn't look particularly happy about it, and as it seemed, Karma was not happy either, as I had my butt absolutely handed to me at the War Games, losing for the very first time in my professional wrestling career. Fortunately, however, my belt was not on the line, but my pride was. As it turned out, however, Cody was actually a pretty nice guy, and he came over to SmackDown to ask me if I wanted to have a title versus title match with him to give the universe what it really wanted. I said sure, but I assured him that I would cheat to win and that he stood no chance. He said that sounded like a pretty sweet deal and that he was down. First, however, there was a tag team tournament coming up just around the corner, and if we combined our powers, we could claim ourselves yet another belt. I told him that I was down for that. The fight, however, was no ordinary fight, as it had us up against two real Vikings who appeared to have never set foot in a gym in their lives. I then suddenly turned into Cody Rhodes and I did my finisher on the Viking and pinned him for 3. Then turned into myself again and fought this bozo where I smacked him out real good and got him for the 3 count too. In doing so, both Cody and myself were now the WWE Tag Team Champions of the entire galaxy. From foes to friends, who would have thunk it? But then this happened. The day the game released out of the 3-day early access period and everyone else got the game and everyone lost all of their progress that they spent 3 days getting and like an extra $50 to have access to. It was great. But then when the game started working again, I was in the ring rubbing my bum all over my tag team partner's face. I can only assume that we had finished the tag team arc of the story and now we were putting both of our belts on the line for the ultimate showdown. And despite Cody's best efforts, my Hadouken was way too powerful. So I rubbed my bum all over his face again until I finally won by KO. That meant that I was now the Universal Champion and also the champion of whatever the other belt was, and the tag team champion, and the most handsome man in the WWE. I literally had every belt now, but my best mate over here told me that at WrestleMania just around the corner something big was coming up. I couldn't wait. Then skip forward a few days, that big thing at WrestleMania just so happened to be Roman Reigns. Yes, he was back from his 7-year hiatus filming a romantic comedy in Hollywood. This was it, all or nothing, all the belts on the line. Would I capture it or just let it slip? Well, pretty needless to say, I beat the absolute bollocks out of him with my high-level ninjutsu techniques that I picked up on a mountain somewhere in Chad. Then I reversed his whip attempt and finished him with his own finisher, the ultimate insult. How embarrassing. But he did kind of get back up, so I cracked out one of these ones and I forced him to tap out. As he slowly walked out of the ring defeated, I asked him if that was all he had and to come back and take it like a real man. But his lungs had clearly taken all that he could take. And just like that, I had come to fulfill my destiny and etch my legacy into stone for all of eternity as the greatest professional farter that had ever lived. Yes, this story was stupid beyond words. I mean, my one. But I promise you, the actual game itself was way stupider. Thanks for watching. Bye.